Hello everyone, on this video we're going to learn how to create naming rules. There are two types of naming rules in MediaProducer: user-defined naming rules created by the normal user and globally defined naming rules created by the administrator. Any user can use a globally defined naming rule, but only the administrator can edit it or delete it. The user-defined naming rule is only available to the user who created it. No one else can use it, edit it, or delete it. User naming rules are created on the Clip browser window. Global naming rules are created by the administrator on the Workflow tab. Let's start with the user naming rule. If I want to rename this clip, for instance, I select the clip and then I click on the Rename button right here. Since I'm going to create a new rule, I click on the New button. I can now give a name to my new rule, something to identify it. Then I have the rule itself. This is how my clip's name is going to be presented. Now I'm going to build my new rule. MediaProducer lists a few suggestions for you to use, like common metadata, and that's exactly what I'm going to start with. I'll take original clip name and disk label, and I'm going to separate these with underscore. Next, we have a few formats for date and time. I'm going to use current date and time. Underscore again. I can also use sequence numbers. I'm gonna separate them with underscore also. Then I can create user inputs for my naming rule. Let's say I need to know who shot this clip. I'm gonna name it photographer. And now we have to choose what type of field I'm gonna use. For this one, I'm gonna use a free text field. I'll hit save. Now I'm gonna create a second user input for producer. This time I'm gonna use a list field. With the list field, I can define some options for the user to choose from a drop-down menu. Under options, I'm gonna type in the names for my drop-down menu. I'll put John, Paul, Ringo, and of course George, separated by commas. I'll hit save. Now I'm gonna create a third user input, and this is going to be date of shoot. The type will be date field. This means the user is gonna have to pick a date from a calendar. And here in options, I have to set the date format I want to use. In this case, I want to use month, day, and year. If my clip already had additional metadata, it would show up here for me to use on my new naming rule. I'll save it. And now I have my new naming rule with user inputs to fill out. I'll fill them out. If I want my sequence number to start with 1, I'll leave it like that. But if this is the second card of the same shoot, for example, and my first card had 89 clips, now I would like it to start at 90. I'm gonna fill out all the required fields here, hit OK, and here's my renamed clip. The way to create a globally defined naming rule is very similar. Since I'm logged in as administrator, I have access to the Workflow tab, and I can create a global naming rule clicking on the Add Naming Rule button right here. The main difference here is that now you don't have access to the clip's additional metadata because you're not selecting one. Everything else is pretty much the same. I'm going to create a simple global naming rule here. Now I'm going to go back to the Ingest tab and apply my new global naming rule to my clip. As you can see, I cannot edit nor delete this naming rule. Only the administrator can do it on the Workflow tab, where this rule was created. Done. We're gonna come back to global naming rules in a different video and learn how to incorporate metadata and interplace subfolder creation to it. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.